Tag a friend, and if they don't respond in 1 minute, they owe you 132 billion gold marks, 26% of their export income, the control of Northern Schleswig. I'm pretty sure. Okay, whatever. Posen and West Prussia, Alsace-Lorraine, and leave Danzig and the Tsar to the administration of the League Nations. Sounds to me I'm about to get richer and a whole lot more territory. There's no way he responds in a minute. The concessions the Central Powers had to make after World War I. Wait, if I take all this stuff from my friend, does this mean he's gonna come back in 20 years and just go super demon mode? Maybe I should just eliminate him permanently if that's the case. By the way, if you're one of the 60% of my audience that is not subscribed to my channel, please consider doing that. It helps out a lot. It's the best way to show me that you enjoy history, maps, flags, all this stuff. A German child with 4 grenades and a Panzerfaust in April 1945. I'm doing my part. Oh, yes, you are, 12-year-old German kid. I don't know if you're gonna live to see 13, but thanks anyways. Here we have the boss on top. Then there's the leader leading. Finally, there's the Panzer crew carrying the broken Panzer. And unfortunately for them, the Germans would have to do this a lot in World War II. Hans, we need a better transmission. And a whole lot of them were also getting stuck in the mud. The depths of Wikipedia with this gem. 94 years ago today, the BBC ran out of news and aired piano music instead. They literally announced there is no news, so we're just gonna go off of vibes. What a time to be alive in the 1930s. Unfortunately, not too long after, there'd be a lot of news. It's kind of nice when there's no news, to be honest. Russia claims it seized advanced U.S. Bradley fighting vehicle from Ukraine. Capture of sophisticated NATO military equipment, high-tech equipment, and advanced. No rust, working engine, and crew survivability? Have you traveled from the future? Meanwhile, the Bradley fighter vehicle they stole built in possibly 1963. Well, maybe it's new to what the Russians got going on right now, but apparently in Ukraine, they're still using World War II era tanks for some reason. The real-life proposal of Romania-Hungary, or I guess it would have been called the Union of Hungary and Romania. This was most active between 1919 and 1920. Romania offered to support Hungary in defending its western territories against Austria, and also to help Hungary get back Slovakia even. Yeah, that would have been absolutely wild, I think it's fair to say. Hungary almost said friendship with Austria ended, now Romania is my best friend. God made us enemies because he knew we'd be unstoppable as lovers. Okay. Beat this guy. Want to impress the Empress of Austria? Build a chess automation player. Actually put a man inside to play instead. Defeat Benjamin Franklin and Napoleon Bonaparte. Your machine gets exhibited by multiple people for many years. Nobody finds out for 84 years. Love that there's so many different examples of just a little bit of trolling throughout history. How did they not even suspect this? That's my big question. Because, I mean, come on, this seems really obvious. We have to admit, though, this is a pretty smart contraption. The dismissal of Bismarck. If you keep behaving like this, then 20 years after my death, everything will fall apart. Okay, Chancellor, you've been dismissed. Literally 20 years after Otto von Bismarck died. Germany lost World War I, and definitely things fell apart. In fact, things fell apart so much they were going to put their entire country in the hands of an Austrian painter, which when you put it like that, seems like a very bad idea, which it was. But I like how he also predicted World War I was going to be caused by the Balkans. I'm officially neutral, but selling a bunch of iron to the no-no Germans. Aw, you're sweet, they say to Sweden. I'm officially neutral, but selling a bunch of tungsten to the no-no Germans. Hello, human resources? If you didn't know, not all neutral nations are treated equally. Some are considered better than others. Problem with this example is that Spain was controlled by a fascist dictator, and he probably would have joined the Axis if his country wasn't already destroyed from the Spanish Civil War. Even Hitler himself was worried about bringing them into his alliance because he knew that they wouldn't be able to protect this coastline from the British. The conquest of Tenochtitlan. Honestly, I didn't fully pronounce that correctly, but that's the best it's gonna get. How you think it was versus how it actually really was. You've got the natives and their allies fighting the Aztecs. Meanwhile, the Spaniards kind of just on their phone letting them do it. A lot of the natives in that area really did not like the Aztecs. Might as well let them do the fighting then instead. Virginia be like, West Virginia needs to give us our land back. Meanwhile, the federal government to that very same Virginia. Aren't we forgetting one teensy weensy but ever so crucial little detail? I own you. Yeah, that didn't really work out for the U.S. state of Virginia, did it? West Virginia broke away from Virginia during the American Civil War. They didn't agree on which side to be on. Insane to think that they could rebel against the federal government and then just ask for West Virginia back. Yo, that was just crazy thinking. Might have only specifically wanted a peace there, but still. The Jews in medieval India versus the Jews in medieval Europe. I mean, this is the Jews throughout most of history in Europe, but specifically the medieval ages. Nice they got to have fun in India, though. That's true. Poland is an exception. That time the Ottoman Empire literally fought everyone during a giant crusade, and then they literally won somehow. We're actually specifically talking about this battle. They sustained considerable Ottoman losses, but most of the Crusader army had been destroyed or captured. This was still very early in the growth of the Ottoman Empire, but gave way to their rise. They was only gonna get even bigger. King's armor, beautiful smith work, engraved battle scenes, every inch of the body and face covered in metal. Meanwhile, in movies, yeah, I think the costume designer probably doesn't want to do all that, or maybe they don't have the budget or not allowed to do all that. The movie studios are gonna cheap out in as many ways as possible, but I wish they would. I wish they would create accurate garments. Jeremy Clarkson looking like at least 5 different fast show characters. What a bogged down French men-at-arms sees before being clubbed to death at Agincourt. Be horrifying last sight. We're talking the 100 Years' War, where France and England literally fought for 116 years. This ended up starting a new period of English dominance that would last for 14 years. They were so close to literally destroying all of France. British mofo's face from 1066 to 789, when he's born too late to go to war with the Kingdom of France, too early to go to war with the Kingdom of France, but just in time to go to war against the Kingdom of France. It literally never ends. Remember, the whole British and French being on that same side thing is really a new development. They literally fought for like 1,000 years before that. Oh boy, it's fighting the Kingdom of France, so clock. Hey France, why do you always wear that mask? Let's see what's behind it. Oh, yeah, let's just keep that on. You could argue France was only like one step above a Holy Roman Empire at times there. If you want to learn more, just play a game called Crusader Kings and you'll understand everything. Counts and dukes and empresses and all this stuff. Yo, bro, I got this amazing idea. I can't wait to see what that is. Oh, that's the Treaty of Tordesillas. The Pope said so. That's right, the Pope said so. That time, Spain and Portugal and just the Pope decided, hey, we're just gonna not ask anyone and divide up the world between us. What a Chad move. POV, your loan payment is late. In medieval and Renaissance banks versus in modern banks. They apparently didn't charge interest like we do now. However, there was a fine that you'd have to pay. That sounds infinitely better than interest. I guess it depends on how much the fine was, but I'm guessing it wasn't that much. At the end of World War I, Greece and Turkey had roughly the same population. Now the Greeks are outnumbered 10-1. Maybe having more babies is a good idea? What have the Greeks been doing since then? Actually, let's not answer that because that opens up a lot of— The target is Berlin! Arthur, this is the 7th night in a row you've bombed Berlin. Basically, in 1943, they thought they could end Germany in World War II by just destroying their capital. It will cost us 400 to 500 aircraft. It will cost Germany the war. Fortunately, that was not the case. I love that you can literally just Google Bomber Harris and it actually brings up this guy. Stop walking point for the whole 82nd. Move your CP back. I'll die when God wills it. Ridgway, that second guy, pretty much ignores the orders, calling it a compliment. He firmly believed that God would not permit him to be hit before Germany is totally defeated. So that was clearly enough for him to disobey orders. Taiwanese people explaining about Japan. Oh, it's just like unicorns and rainbows. How beautiful is that? Meanwhile, Korean people explaining about Japan. And we're clearly talking about during the Japanese Empire because, well, yeah, that's definitely the Japanese and the World War II times. Pretty big difference between the way the Japanese treated this peninsula versus this island, Taiwan. Of course, it was not exactly rainbows and butterflies. But compared to what happened with Korea and also other places like China, with that in mind, Taiwan got off easy. Duel Saddam Hussein or just invade Iraq. George Bush's 2 paths in 2003. I guess he went right then, but man, if only he went left, that'd been interesting. The duel was suggested by the vice president of Iraq at that time. Fortunately, he declined the offer. Formative John F. Kennedy backstory, going to a dinner with his father and his mistress and pretending it's normal. Formative LBJ backstory, threatening his friends until they voted him for class president. Formative Nixon backstory, wearing an apron and barking like a dog. Nixon has some of the most interesting backstory. Apparently, he really wanted to be a rapper too. If only we could have seen this timeline. And big thanks to my patrons this month.
Drew, je suis ton père de retour avec le lait, regarde dehors.
DOOCHBAGGINS, Amateur Archaeology, Carmel Saida, Tambre, Edward, Fredrik Tibblin, Henrik Hedlund, DaBeautiful, MEGAN-Underwood, JohnDenver, KirinoIsBestGirl, Sebby, the Mexicans, 760.